you guys? It is Holly and Kat, and we're back with another episode of the Picture Perfect podcast. And if you have not seen the clip going around all socials right now of the Kat Osterman Riseball, go look for it. I'm going to post it on the Picture Perfect podcast Instagram. And wow, it has definitely sparked a lot of conversation. There were like 8 million shares. So for that reason, we decided let's go into rice balls today. Let's talk about rice balls. We already talked about the drop ball a couple weeks ago, so now we're doubling up here with another pitch that Kat happens to be a master of. So I'm going to kick it over to her, and I know y'all want to hear, of all people, you want to hear about the rice ball from Kat Osterman. So Kat, kicking it to you.
Yeah, I think the funny piece of that viral clip is that it says like a rare view of Kat Osterman's Riseball, because obviously we already talked drop. That's what I'm really known for, because college and beyond, that was my best pitch. I don't think Tony was around yet, but Gary Hanning, wherever he is on his retirement tour or vacation or permanent living space, he would have gotten a firsthand heavy dose of Riseball viewing. So he can attest to the fact that I was primarily a Riseball pitcher prior to going to college. I think we've talked about it a couple times. I was like, I say the last of the Mohicans, but one of the last groups that had to move from 40 in travel ball in high school back to 43 in college. And so when you move back those 3 feet, it can change the dynamic of your pitches quite a bit. It didn't mean my rise ball wasn't good. It was just that my drop was that much better, having 3 more feet to move and start to control it. And so I love my rise ball. It's my baby. It was the first pitch I learned. And again, I know you and I have talked about order of learning pitches sometimes. It is not what I tell people to learn first at all, but that just is how I was taught. Again, bullet spin fastball. My pitching coach was like, hey, next is a rise ball. Would have probably made sense for it to be a curveball and then a rise ball, but we went the other way. But yeah, it's my bread and butter. It's one of my favorite pitches. I think if I've been on some of the technology that tracks data with USA in my last couple of years for the 2020 Olympics. And it has its efficiency and its spin rate and all of that. It scores pretty high. I think Dana Sorensen will tell you it's one of the best moving ones that she's seen in tracking pitches through all the technology. And so it is something I pride myself on. I probably didn't throw it enough the older I got, just because the drop ball worked and produced ground balls, as you and I have talked about. But I'm excited to cover it today. I think it is a great pitch if you can learn to master it and you can learn to control it. I also think it can be a pitcher's downfall if you don't spend enough time learning how to master it and control it, because if you miss with it, it can be dangerous. And so with that, and I know, Holly, you watch in the range, but with that, I'm going to start with just the spin of it. It's opposite the drop ball. So obviously we talked a drop ball coming out of our hand should be spinning away from us. A rise ball coming out of our hand is going to be spinning back towards us. So it's called what you have backspin. A lot of people have a dot rise ball. And so I will say, does it rise? Does it move a little bit? Yes. Does it move as much as if you have true backspin with a semi-correct line? Not as much. And I think that's why in the viral clip you see kind of the late jump from my rise ball we threw at this line. And when I tell you I saw this line straight, I'm not lying. My dad made me practice until we could throw this line straight over and over and over again. And there would be times in the driveway, if this were a whole ball, I would throw it and he'd tell me if it was off this way, and he would tell me if it was off this way, because that meant he could see the dot come, like, sort of. And so I needed to fix my hand. And I think the best rise balls ever that have the good jumps, they have the good lines. And you'll see athletes throw with the line balls and not be afraid to throw with the line ball. And so I say that to young athletes who maybe are learning the rise or want to learn the rise. Don't be afraid to throw with a line ball, and don't get discouraged because within a couple weeks you're not getting a line. It's going to take a while. To be repetitive, because I know I've said this before on our podcast too. I threw the nut rise ball for 9 months in my driveway before we ever threw it in a game. And we didn't even intend to throw it in a game when we did. It was more just a matter of, I don't remember, ump wasn't calling the fastball in different locations. And my dad was like, well, it's been moving, so let's try to see if maybe we get some swing and misses with it. And so we threw it, got swing and misses, tail is all the time, and then we started throwing it in a game. But we tried to work on it in the driveway, not just getting the spin, but getting the movement, being able to throw it on corners, not leaving it down the middle or, missing too low, those kind of things. And I'm not saying I never missed, but trying to have more control over it. Because I think too many pitchers, and Holly, you can attest, because I know you work with a lot more than I do most of the time. You don't learn a pitch and 2 weeks later throw it in a game. Yeah. You just don't. Like, realistically, that is not reality, because at some point you're going to hit a wall and you're going to be like, I don't know how to fix it. And it's because you never really had it. People ask a lot of times how did I throw my changeup? And I said, I don't really know because I never put in the time after learning the rides ball, because that's when I quit throwing my flip change, not intentionally, just the way the game kind of did, and we didn't focus on the changing speeds as much. But after that, it was like I don't know how I threw my changeup because I threw whatever worked that day, which is why it was inconsistent because I couldn't fix it because I never worked on actually mastering it to begin with. So if you don't work on mastering something to begin with, you're not going to be able to fix it when all of a sudden, oh, I learned it 2 weeks ago. Now I'm throwing it in a game. Oh, now it's not working. Well, because you didn't you didn't give your body time to learn muscle memory on how to throw it. What is it, 10,000 reps before you master something? You can't tell me in 2 weeks you threw 10,000 rice balls.
And to that, I would also say and ask you, I think for a lot of pitchers, they're either classified as upspin pitchers or downspin pitchers. They're like one or the other. They feel like, "Oh, I have a good drop ball. I'm not a rise ball pitcher," or, "Oh, I've got a good rise ball. I just it's harder for me to throw a drop ball." And to that, I would say you're not necessarily yes, like our bodies sometimes or some pitchers naturally have an easier time throwing up or down, but you don't have to be stuck that way. And for you to understand really how much work it takes to master a pitch, for you pitchers out there who feel like I'm only good at one thing, I'm only good at east west, or I'm only good at down. Can those pitchers master a rise ball, or are they always going to be stuck as I'm just a down pitcher?
Right. And you don't have to, again, I say mastering the rise ball, and for each person that can look different with how you use it. Like you master it in the sense you get the right spin, you have movement, you can spot it on the corners. Not every pitcher with a rise ball has to spot it on multiple levels in order to use it. You and I were just talking before this is that I have a pitcher, she's short. She's like 5'4" maybe. She has a great rise ball, but because she's shorter, her release point's lower, and she does a great job, and you witnessed it a little bit when we played you guys in Clearwater, of being able to literally go rise ball at the belt, sometimes for a called strike, then go up to your boobs, and then go higher and just get you out on 3 straight rise balls. And not every pitcher is going to have that ability to locate that low in the zone. My release point compared to hers is already drastically different, being 5'4" and 6'2". Now, it doesn't mean I couldn't locate it at multiple levels like chest, chin, and forearm, but for me, locating it belt, that's a little harder. I have to really try to get down low or release early and get some really good spin on it because you don't get to fully finish if you release too early. So, and we'll talk about that and I'll show release point here in a second, but I think that's the other piece is master it to use it for its intent, which most of the time is a chase pitch. So somewhere, I always say between boobs and top of the head. Occasionally we do go higher than that, but those are, obviously someone's already proven they can throw it or hit it or swing at it. Master it for this. And then after you've mastered it for its true intent, then you can work on trying to go through the zone if you need to. But as you said, someone who's east-west or drop, you can still use this pitch and you don't have to use it a lot. Like I said, I went from all rise to people don't even realize I had a rise ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a drop ball pitcher, and again, when we talk about pitch calling, sequencing, all these things, and go back to technology, when I was with Athletes Unlimited in year 1, I believe it was, Dana, okay, I'm going to reiterate Dana Sorensen. She does a lot with being able to see pitch patterns and how things are effective or whatever. Anyway, she shot me a text and was like, hey, Nate has some info he'd like to share with you. I'm like, sure, why not? So I called him and he's like, hey, the way your rise ball is, if you the third time through a lineup, he's like, because you're one of the few that's going more than twice through a lineup. He's like, the third time through your lineup, if it's a spot where you would use a drop ball to finish them, if you use a rise, you're going to get more swing and misses. And I was like, okay. He's like, because I've seen so many drops going the third time through, so why don't you switch it? And Gwen and I talked about it. We switched it up, and I think that was the game we ended up getting 18 strikeouts. And you see more rise balls. But for me, being older, I'll admit stubborn, it wasn't something in my mind until someone told me because, well, even if I'm not getting strikeouts, I'm getting outs, right? We're not losing. Like, it's effective. But it was more effective if I went other ways, right?
Right.
So there's ways to use everything to your advantage, even if it's not a primary pitch. But even if it's not a primary pitch, I go back to you want to master it and know it's spinning correctly and you can locate it correctly. Those are, and it moves. And I hesitate, and I say in that order too, is like spin it, locate it, and it moves, because you and I have talked about as well, a high fastball, especially for young pitchers who haven't mastered the rise ball, high fastball is just as effective. And
Mhm.
even for not young pitchers, you and I have talked about, we've had some 18U kids that don't have a rise, but hey, we're going to throw a fastball at the eyes and then go back down. It's effective when when you throw it and when you locate it. So it doesn't necessarily even have to have a ton of movement to be effective for its purpose, but we have
Yeah.
to throw it for the purpose.
Yeah. I think that people really need to understand the importance of setting pitches up. And so having something that's going to complement or offset your down stuff, something that's going to offset a changeup. I think if you've got a great changeup, something up in the zone, that's a really hard pitch sequence, like combination to go from something up where you got to get your bat head out to hit a rise ball, and then a changeup that you have to wait on, and then again with the up and down. And there's so many different things that if you can spot a ball up in the zone, especially if you're a really good drop pitcher, like the story that you just told, with Dana, or if you're a really good off speed pitcher, having the ability to throw something hard up just to offset that slow stuff, it really is going to round your game out and keep your other stuff working for you 3 times through the lineup because, you gotta give people a different look, you gotta set pitches up, and you gotta disrupt timing enough with different contact points, different locations in order to keep those other pitches working for you the whole game, essentially.
Correct. Correct. So diving into the rise ball itself, I don't have a whole ball again. Let's see. Here's a half ball. Again, any of these tools are great because this is going to show you if it's right. I like the line ball. I really do. Whether you do it with a Sharpie, electrical tape, whatever. Electrical tape never bothered me. I've heard some people say it makes them slip, but maybe I wasn't gripping on it. But I like line balls. And then the spinner. I think the spinner's good for up close and like really learning what your fingers should be doing. But I also am a big proponent on either one of these two or a real ball with a line, just because you can do so much more with your fingers in your hand with a whole ball. I think these are great training tools, don't get me wrong, but I try to use them just as that, like train up close. But when we start throwing, throw what we're going to throw because the whole ball in your hand is so much different, in my opinion. So we're going to talk. I'll grab this one. So I usually teach my athletes to go with the horseshoe. Being left-handed doesn't really do well here. So we're going to go with the horseshoe. I'm an index finger pressure point, so that's on the inside. If you're a middle finger, that's fine too. Your middle finger, you can double up. You can put this here. But whatever fingers your pressure point is on the inside, not on top, but on the inside of this seam. And then your thumb, I put my thumb on top of the bottom seam. Now, what the rest of your fingers do here, mine just lay there lightly. I'm not trying to like grip hard. The only two things that are gripping hard are here. Now, I will be honest, when I learned this, I learned it the opposite way. And I gripped here and I spun it thumbless to learn to let the fingers get underneath. And then we put the thumb on. As I got older and I understood that concept is when I gripped more with this finger. These are still on it. But most of your pressure is on this index finger. So see here, I can hold this and like still take these off. I'm not necessarily tight with the pinky, but the pinky's holding it in place. But when you go to snap, I like thinking this is going down to the ground. Like if I were going to try to dig under the ground with my index finger, my pinky is coming through and up. If I think about that going, so then let me stand up for you guys. As I get here, if this is going down and this is coming up, it's hard to get offline. Again, my fingers are a little long here for you. So if I'm going this way, it's really hard to get offline. Now, if my pinky starts pulling towards me, I'm getting here, and now I'm going to throw the corkscrew rise.
Yeah.
So for a true rise, I want to come here. This is going to go down. This is coming straight up, and then my thumb's just going to fall back. And you want it to come here, and it's spinning backwards. I'm not obviously out of practice of catching things that I spin, but here. Okay. Again, I'm not, if a pitcher comes to me and says like, oh, I put pressure on my middle finger, that's fine. Awkward for me, but if you can do it, then we're going to do it that way. So if that's the case, but if you have to split these, but if you're a middle finger pressure, I think you probably get the most control if you can put them together. And then here.
Now, do you feel like that changes depending on a pitcher's hand size or her age having, smaller hands?
What finger is the pressure?
Yeah, in general, yeah.
A little bit, but I'll be honest, one of my first college jobs at DePaul, I got a girl who could spin the heck out of it. And I couldn't, and then when she got to me, I realized how small her hands were. And I'm like, how are you spinning this ball? Now, granted, she did a lot of cupping, which she cupped on everything, so it didn't hurt her. I don't know if it changes which finger pressure you would have, but how spaced out your fingers are afterwards would probably be the difference. So like for me, my pinky can come down here, but I also don't necessarily throw it well down here because now this is doesn't have as much time to pull. But at the same time, I think with the horseshoe, most people can do that pretty well, even regardless. I feel like you have to be older and stronger to use the middle finger, but that's just me. Again, if a pitcher feels like she grips it better with the middle finger, then by all means, I let them use it.
Pretty small hands, and I mean, I put pressure on my pointer finger, but
Yeah. Well, and I like to tell too, because like to me, it's natural to when we grab things, we grab, right? Like
right.
as I grab my coffee cup, I don't lead in with my middle fingers. So I feel like that's the natural. So these two are always your strongest. And then, yes, I like to say we're going down index, up pinky. But even if you're just talking, I mean, just telling them like, hey, we're just doing this and rotating.
Right.
Well, this is kind of weird to me. But to each their own as far as which finger. I just feel like pointer finger we have more control over. I haven't had one that grips middle that has an elite rise. Like they have a decent rise, but they don't have an elite rise. Whether that's real correlation scientifically or not, I don't think a one of one study counts. But with that, so we're obviously trying to be as long as we can. Drop ball we talked about with the turnover, we get in a little bit so we can get over it. Rise ball, we're trying to get as long as possible and not like locked out long, but think of your arm like a spaghetti noodle and it's hanging as long as it can. Like that's what you want is to be able to be long, loose, so now you can whip under. Not sure, Holly, how you teach it. I don't change a whole lot. Our stride length might be a little bit farther to keep our weight back just a tad. But I'm talking like if this is good posture for a normal pitch, like we might be here. We're not here. I see a lot of coaches and or girls that'll come and like they're trying to stride a whole foot farther and then they're back like this. And I'm like, we have to remember the more we angle our shoulders at the onset, the less it's really rising and the more it's an angled pitch. So if you're
Yes.
throwing a fastball, by all means, get those shoulders angled and get it up. But if we want a pitch that moves, if it really moves and we angle it, that thing is going above the Jolly Green Giant,
Yeah.
which kids probably don't even know who the Jolly Green Giant is, but their parents do.
I just think the longer the stride, like too long for your body, the less athletic you are, the less power you're gonna have in your legs. And are you good there?
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, viewers. Had a whole hole in the coffee cup.
When
We're
we
good.
when we get too long, lengthwise, stride-wise, especially if you're not real tall and you don't have a
Correct.
naturally it's gotta be in proportion to your body. So if you're, like, super, super wide, that's not a very athletic, like, powerful stance in terms of what our legs are doing, and then we get off balance. I just think that's my biggest thing is all of our pitches, we should have balance and coordination.
Correct.
And when you start striding, like, over striding, we lose a lot of that balance and
Yeah.
coordination.
Yeah. Well, and I get it. And back to like kind of showing, let's see if I can go over here real quick and show you guys. So back to, okay, there we go. So if I'm going to throw it, if this is normal, so here's where I'm going to come for peel, curve, fastball, change up, slow curve, whatever. If I'm going to go rise, I'm like right here. So this is the difference from here to here. And that can be created more with weight than it needs to be because my stride's longer. Because the farther out you get, but yet you try to stay over your back leg, you're just going to go this way. And we don't want to pitch this way. And that's again where I talk about the height difference and release points is, I'm on my tippy toes right now, but like this is normal. So I'm about halfway, 2/3 down my thigh. If I go like this, yes, I'm at my knee, but how am I going to keep that going on a straight line first when the angle is already up from here?
Hmm.
So yes, I'm not going to throw a rise ball through the zone at the belt as much or as easily as somebody who's shorter than I am. That's
Right.
just the nature of angles and planes and all those things. Doesn't mean you can't on occasion or you can't work on trying to cut it off and like master something that's a little different, but it's not as easy. But I would say the biggest thing is if I'm here on everything else, this is where I want to be on a rise. And more so, not because I'm angling, but now it allows this back hip to help drive up and under. Because this is the one pitch, our hips cannot stay on a straight line. Physics, and a lot of our kids probably haven't taken physics yet that are listening to this. There probably are a few that have, but physics will tell you this rise ball shouldn't rise, right? Without an engine pack, something shouldn't be ascending against gravity. So with that, we do have to help it start to go on an upward trajectory. And with that, I have to be backing on the inside of this, which is going to create a little bit of an angle, not a lot, but a little bit, and let this back leg now drive into and up. And that's where I think sometimes you see pitchers jump off their front foot. I don't like falling backwards because I don't think you need to be going so hard that you fall backwards when we're trying to throw a ball forward. But occasionally, more in warm-ups, I don't think I really focused on it in games at all, but more in warm-ups, you would see me, occasionally I would jump when I would go into it to try to really feel like I'm getting up and under if I felt like I was flat with my hip drive. And if you jump off your foot, that's fine. I think the big thing is making sure you're hard against it before you come off the ground. You can't be jumping while you're releasing. That's not helping you. So I think that's the big thing. But my keys, as I said, index fingers going down, pinkies coming up. I'm long. I imagine when I worked on it as a youngster, I imagine that I was dropping my shoulder, but I wasn't really dropping. But that's how I let my shoulder get loosened down. Like I didn't come here and like tighten. I imagined that I was going to drop my shoulder to make it loose so I could get under it. And then you have to have a firm front side. You cannot make a rise ball rise without a good front side. So I
What would
think those.
be if you came like gave our listeners 2 or 3 of your favorite rise ball drills, what would they be?
Well, I think one that I haven't ever really seen anybody else do it, but we did it because we had a patch of grass on the side of our driveway that was maybe 3 feet wide, so a little bit wider than what I can show you on the screen. And I would go over and take the ball and like stand in what would be release position. So I'd be here and I'd start it here. And like, this is a little bit short armed, but it was more for my wrist. And I would literally, I'm not going to do it here because my toddler's under the desk and this might hit her. But I would do this and I would throw it into the ground, getting this feeling of that index finger going down. Okay. And even in grass, like don't do it on concrete. That's the one surface it doesn't really work on. But even on grass, it'll semi bounce and bounce backwards. Like it doesn't, not like a bouncy ball, but you'll see it hit and go. So you can throw it and get feedback on if you're spinning it right or not. So that was one because it was huge for me to learn how to do that. I will say I don't like the football drill. I did it in college once and when I threw it, you can, but I will be honest, if you throw a football correctly, it should go end over end, where most people will tell you to throw a football and you're supposed to get a spiral. And I was like, well, if I'm getting a spiral, aren't I throwing a corkscrew fastball? And I don't want to do that, right? So if you're going to do it with a football, it should be going end over end if you're throwing it correctly. But that's why I don't do it. I did it once in college and I think I questioned it and then we never did it again. And then my other one, I like K drill because you can break it down slow. You can do short step and get the spin and then get into long steps and start trying to work on getting under it more and seeing some angle a little bit, that kind of thing. But those two are pretty much the two we did. We didn't do a lot of like drills to learn it. Like I said, I don't like football just because I don't focus on the corkscrew. If you want to throw football or even the 2-ball, I had a pitcher that did the 2-balls connected. Don't mind that. It actually strengthens your wrist probably because it's heavy, but you have to make sure you get under. So if you are using something that should tell you spin, if it is not spinning correctly, you're not doing it correctly. Don't say, oh, that's okay. No, get the line, have the 2 balls rotate over each other. And then the older you get, once you start to see some break, I love using strings to go under at different heights to make sure you're keeping it through the zone or close enough to the zone. So those are my favorites. But again, I think the key, once you have good spin, once you can locate the movement starting to get there, is how are you going to use it? And I think that's where you look at how does it complement what you're already doing. So when I first started using it, I was throwing a fastball and a changeup. I think my dad thought maybe I was spotting my high fastball in a good spot and the ump wasn't calling it. I don't know. But then he was like, okay, let's try the rise. Well, we all of a sudden saw that it was getting swing and misses. So then we still used the fastball and changeup to set up the rise ball because that was in 14U, I think. And then over time, it was like, okay, let's start with the rise and see what's happened. Well, we got more swings. So we started playing with, going from chest to higher to higher to higher. And we would do that in the driveway and then, take it to games. But if you're throwing it and it's not getting swing and misses right away, that's okay. As long as it's something the hitter has to watch all the way in, meaning it's not so far into the zone they can tell way out because that's not changing their timing or their eyes at all. As long as it's making them have to watch it all the way in, it's doing something to set something else up.
Yes.
And so I'll go back to my shorter pitcher, great rise ball, good movement on it. As we said, she can throw it multiple levels. Well, then I have another kid who has a pretty good rise ball, but my shorter kid's rise ball is better as terms of spin and it going through the zone. So when my other kid follows my shorter kid, she came and they're like, well, they're not swinging at my rise ball. I'm like, no, because yours is not fooling them since they had to face hers already.
Mhm.
But we're going to keep throwing it because your down stuff is working because they've been looking up all game.
Right.
So let's go down, down. And then if we go up and they chase, great. But otherwise, you're successful because we're down. And
Yeah.
so your rise ball may not always be effective if it's following somebody else's who's maybe is better or has to live up in the zone more than you do. And so I think that's too where I didn't have that problem because unfortunately, I hate to say it, we didn't have another pitcher on our travel team my first year at 18U. Like literally everyone quit before season started. And so they rode the arm of the 16-year-old and thankfully it worked. But now in the age of where we have staffs and we carry more than, 2 pitchers, you do have to understand how your pitches work comparatively to others. And so I think that's a big thing too. But the ball can be successful. It is a great pitch. I'm not saying don't learn it. I just think younger pitchers to have a good feel of what it is to control the majority part of the zone that's called. Drop balls are a better first option and then think about elevating. The other key is if you don't, as we mentioned at the beginning, if you don't throw it correctly and you don't spot it well, it can be a very dangerous pitch because hitters can get their barrels up and under. And if you're in Colorado, it likes to fly, anywhere. If you get the barrel to a pitch that's up, and a lot of hitters will jump it up. So if you don't get it up enough, a lot of those pitches will end up being home runs or long gap shots, hard hits that you don't want to give up. So I think that's the one thing I think young pitchers don't think about when they start throwing is the misses for a rise can make things seem like they're worse than they really are if you haven't mastered the spin and the location of it.
Well, I would like to say thank you to Kat because I feel like I just sat in on a Riseball Masterclass, and hopefully you guys all did too because that was awesome. One of my greatest joys of doing this podcast with Kat for many, many reasons. I love our dialogue. I love the stuff we're talking about. I love the impact we have for you guys, and I love the friendship that we have grown out of this. But I also get to learn from Kat, which is awesome for me to be able to sit here like you guys as a listener too and listen to that because where else do you get that? So I hope you guys are really enjoying the podcast. Kat, thank you so much for informing all of us on the Rise Ball, which if you guys have not yet seen that viral clip, it will be on our Instagram. I'll try and drop it here somewhere in this video as well. And wow. So also, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm here in Las Vegas for NFCA, National Fast Switch Coaches Convention, and I'm going to be sporting Picture Perfect podcast walking around.
Yes.
today. So if, we love when we see you, this is obviously going to come out after the convention, but when you guys see us out at the fields, like we were talking about it earlier, keep coming up to us, keep saying hi, and give us your feedback. What do you want us to talk about? What do you want to hear? What questions do you have? Because we've been implementing a lot of those the last couple episodes with people that have come up to us and asked us questions. So keep doing that. We love meeting our listeners. And Kat, again, thank you for this masterclass in the rice ball.
You're welcome. And as always, if you guys have questions, drop them in the comments. I did get an email in my bomber email, which my bomber email is kat@bombersfastpitch.net. You guys are always welcome to drop questions there as well. But we enjoy, as Holly said, we enjoy interacting with you guys. I got an email this week that I absolutely loved being able to read that a dad and his daughter, they listen to it on their car rides to and from practice and games and just being able to learn all the things. Because I think you and Holly, you and I know we do this kind of more as a passion project than anything because we love being able to share and help people grow in the aspects that we think you probably don't get in pitching lessons. We've hit a couple of the physical pieces, but I think you and I talk more about the intent and the mindset and the emotional piece. Those two are just as important as the physical piece, if not more important once you get to higher levels. And yeah, keep giving us ideas, guys. We're going to keep going. We're not even to a year yet, which we're not going to have 52 episodes at a year since we took some breaks in there, but we loved being able to share, and I love being able to talk all pitching. It's what I've always loved to do. Wanted to coach since I was young, and so for me, it's a way to give back and have us have a greater reach, but also just allowing more pitchers to understand everything in its entirety. So drop us questions, continue to flag us down, send us emails. We love it. And yeah, if you guys see Holly or either of us in our Picture Perfect podcast, give us a shout and let us talk with you and take pictures, all the things. We love doing it. But I think we need to check our followers. We might be doing some I say merch. We don't sell merch, so it's not merch, but swag giveaway once we get to some more followers. So share this with your friends, subscribe, drop your comments and questions. And as always, we will be back with another episode next week. Holly will be done with Vegas. I will be in Disney, but we will record ahead of time. And we will enjoy all your feedback. So thank you guys again for listening. Good luck with Riseballs. Drop questions if you have them, and we will see you next time. Bye.